My name's Will, and I'm the co-founder of Scheltr. We're a startup here in the Velocity Garage. We're on a mission to simplify the way that people rent. So despite not being a developer, my talk today is entitled Automation, Prioritization, and Process. And the reason that I want to talk about this is because as a startup, you have to move really fast. You have to make a lot of decisions, some which can be reversed, but at the end of the day, you have to validate your product, you have to build it, and you have to bring customer delight. Our team's interesting in a lot of ways. Our team consists of myself, I come from a user experience background, and my co-founder from a development background. So there's a lot of tension that exists there in how we make decisions, but there's also a lot of progress that can easily be made, as I can make a prototype, and technically the next day it could be implemented. Kind of like a hackathon. Something that's talked a lot about in the startup world, in the product world, both corporate also, is MVPs. People are always saying, oh, let's quickly ship something as quickly as we can that solves a business problem and makes our customers happy. Some people also think that MVP, minimum viable product, or V1, whatever you want to call it, is equal to feedback. We thought that at Scheltr as well, but after launching Scheltr in February, we think about it a little bit differently. And I want to share 3 quick stories from that. 3 tales, so to speak. So we entered Velocity in August, we completed market validation in October, and we started building in December. So I was told that you sell software 6 to 12 months in advance. So right here is the screenshot that I used to talk to potential landlord partners, to talk to students about our app, and to talk to potential investors. But what's here is actually what we launched at the end of February, and it's quite a bit different. I want to talk about why. Much like Game Links, we're actually a web app, which means that our development talents can be best spread so that we can cater to iOS, we can cater to Android, desktop, and mobile. And this is something that allows us to have a good number of users and best fit the skills that my co-founder Adrian and I both have. And I wasn't sure if this was going to go because some of these conversations I circled back to still thought they were getting this, when in reality they got that. But it turns out nobody really said anything about that, except for this one guy who I technically renamed to Darren Bowe, who said advertising versus reality. And yeah, Darren, we're building Facebook integrations. Don't worry. So another thing that we thought as we had our heads down for about 6 weeks as we were building out Scheltr, and we told everybody this is coming, sign up for early access. We had 650 people who had signed up for our emailing list, and we just needed to launch this thing. However, if you know about software, there's a lot of testing that's involved in it. You want to make sure that everything's working, in terms of technically and in terms of your process, that you're not missing anything. And I think we live maybe in a bit of a bubble here in Waterloo that we think we can just launch sometimes not finished products and people lovingly give us feedback, but that's not true. And I got proven wrong on this one. So we put this thing at the bottom, need help, have feedback, message us on Facebook or email us. And I thought, oh, if anything's wrong, people they'll just email us and let us know. Turns out from our data, no one's ever clicked either of those buttons before. So we were kind of wrong on that, and some things did break, and ultimately it cost us money, and as a starving startup, that kind of sucked. The third thing I want to talk about is you have to think about what features you're going to put into our platform. GameLinks is a platform, Assert is a platform, but platforms are just a culmination of a bunch of features. You don't want to have too many, but you also want to build the right ones at the right time. And one compromise that we made pretty early on is we knew we were going to have to use email. This is a pretty common strategy that's used by almost every startup. I don't know if any of you remember back to 2008, at least that's when I joined Facebook, was you actually replied to the emails to backfill the platform on Facebook. So you used Facebook without using Facebook. This is actually something that we do. So when we find your place to live and we confirm your settings, we do this through email. And users are okay with that, and we're working as hard as we can to build it into our platform today. And at the end of the day, we did launch. We had to put a timeline on things. I know there's like YC and Techstars where they do that kind of internally. My co-founder Adrian and I, we grew some beards, and I was like really sick of it by the end. And then when we launched, we shaved it. And then we were out in the wild. So there's a few I want some takeaways. So some things that you can maybe think about is whether you work at a startup, whether you work at a big company, whether you're using lean methodology, sprints, etc. What are some things that maybe could be prioritized, some good processes that could be automated? Why are you automating that? How are you automating that? And how are you delivering benefit to your customers through doing that? If you have any questions, you can email me, wil@scheltr.com. And if you're interested in this presentation, there's a bit.ly link that you can look at there.
Perfect, thanks, Will. Time for a few questions. One from myself, first of all. As I'm thinking about this, I think there's so many different stakeholders you have to work with here. You think of landlords, tenants, students. Can you speak a bit about how you mapped out these stakeholders when you're going through this process?
Yeah, for sure. So I'd say it was just discovery, a lot of phone calls. I think I've probably talked to hundreds of, whether it's real estate agents, property managers. It was kind of getting a picture of, here in Waterloo you have buildings like King Street Towers, The Mark, Icon, etc. But those are really in reality just brands. Some are real estate investment trusts, some are property management companies. So I'm a designer, so I opened up Sketch, my favorite design app, and I mapped out who's all involved in this in terms of the companies and in terms of the people. I use LinkedIn a lot, and I mapped out, you want to make sure when you're signing a partnership, you get the person at the top, because if you start at the bottom, it becomes really difficult, and ultimately you want to make the person at the top happy, because then it makes everybody else happy. So I just mapped it out visually, and then kind of controlled my conversations that way.
Okay, other questions?
Since I work in testing, I'll ask you a question about the testing you did or did not do. So you suggested you want your users test the product to give you the feedback. And that sounds like it didn't work for you. What did you ultimately end up doing to test your product?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I guess to clarify better what I said, we thought that we would get feedback through those two links on the bottom. We do get a lot of feedback just from random emails, messages on our Facebook page, etc. Luckily, as a user experience designer, I was really used to doing usability testing. Except normally it's really hard to find your ideal users. Luckily, being in a market like Waterloo, most people, students and recent grads, are looking for housing. So it's just having a little bit of confidence in your own product to go out there and ask, hey, do you have 5 minutes to quickly create an account and try to find a place? Then ask some simple questions. How do you feel about that? Being in the Velocity Garage, we're surrounded by 120 other tech companies, most of which have interns at the minimum to find housing. So I just kind of was a little unproductive towards some people's time.
Hey, well, actually, I have a question. So I was a student here, and I'm a recent landlord. And my biggest question for your company is this. So it's great, and we definitely have a need for a good app to look for housing. But it's not frequent enough. I look for it 4 months at a time at most. And every time I do, I go to the Waterloo housing group on Facebook, and I scroll through the pictures, and I send a message to one of them. And then I'm done with it. So I'm just kind of curious, do you guys see that problem? People are not signing up for the app, and how are you overcoming that?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I would say Facebook groups are, in a sense, one of our competitors. One of the main things that we've done both with our partnerships and with our algorithm is that we can create 4-month leases to negate that. So when you use Scheltr, we're not a listing service. We're not like Kijiji where you go on and say, you search for what you're looking for and you get a bunch of options. We curate exactly what you're looking for and deliver it to your inbox. So if you're looking for a 4-month place, we'll make sure that we're doing that. I think Facebook groups continue to be a competitor of sorts. But one way that we kind of get around that is a sense of security. We partner directly with landlords, so you're not dealing with a bad sublet situation, which does arise. You were also maybe lucky in that you messaged somebody and that was your first try was your successful one. We find by talking to students that some of them spend 2 weeks and 15 options to find their place to rent, versus we try to bring that down to 2 or 3.
Last chance?